Class, what's up? Welcome to our first video of Chapter 3. We're talking about parallel perpendicular lines, and here is just kind of an entry video or intro video to a bunch of different concepts. I will warn you guys, this one's a little bit longer, so feel free to 1.5 this one if the time is scaring you. All right. So, first things first, parallel lines. We show them by that symbol, parallel. And we need to know that they are coplanar and they do not intersect. All right? We think about them like almost like railroad tracks, right? They're never going to touch. And they're coplanar because if I have two lines, right? If I have two lines, I can draw a plane that has both of them, whether or not regardless of how I'm holding them, okay? So, difference now, perpendicular lines, actually I'll switch colors here. So perpendicular, we use that symbol, kind of like an upside down T. And we need to know that they do intersect. And very importantly, they intersect at, we can say 90-degree angles. You can also just remember that those are right angles. Alright, now probably the toughest part of these new vocabulary words, skew lines. They're kind of tricky, and we'll talk about them in class, but they're a little bit hard to visualize on paper, so stick with me here. Skew lines are not coplanar or non-coplanar, for those of you guys that remember some vocabulary from Chapter 1. Also important, skew lines are not parallel, and they do not intersect. Alright? So I almost think about it like an overpass of a highway, right? If I'm driving down, I can't draw it, we'll have to talk about it in class, but like if you're driving down a highway, you know, and there's like an off-ramp, or exit ramp or whatever, and then it goes back over, well, that's kind of skew, because they're going in opposite directions, and one's kind of like on top of the other. Alright, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in class. Hopefully you have an idea of what they are and we can clean it up. Now, parallel lines, also with parallel lines, parallel planes. Parallel planes are planes that do not intersect. Alright? Parallel planes are planes that do not intersect. So now we have to kind of put all this together and practice some of it. I think number one isn't too bad. Parallel lines, or segments I should say, are nice and easy. Like if I draw AB right here, well, if we think, parallel lines are lines that are going in the exact same direction and are never going to touch. So if we think about it, well then DC is going in the exact same direction and will never touch. And then you got to remember that also there's more, right? Also EF and GH. Do you see how those three lines are going in the exact same direction as the original? They're never, ever, ever going to touch. So those would be our options. We would say DC, we would say EF, and we would say GH. All right? Order of lettering does not matter. Don't worry about it. But yeah, there's definitely three. Now, this one I would say is the toughest one, number 2, skew. Alright, so I'm going to start by sketching where my original segment is. Alright, EF. We need to find any lines that do not lie in the same plane, that are not parallel, and do not intersect. So if you think about it, and I'm almost going to mark some things off. Like I know that I can't pick these 4. And hopefully you agree with me. Those would all intersect at E or at F. So those are out, right? Well, we also have some more because we can't have lines that are parallel. So then that gets rid of AB, CD, and GH. Now I know my picture's getting a little messy, but hopefully you guys can see that I have AD, BC, I also have DH and CG. And if you kind of think about it, maybe like cover... I can't do it, shoot. If you kind of cover these up, DH and CG up, like, that should make sense, right? One of them's down at the bottom, and then AD's up at the top, and it's going in the complete opposite direction, right? Or not opposite, in the different direction. So those lines are never, ever, ever going to touch. Same thing with BC, and then honestly, it's the same thing with DH and CG. So now that we have that kind of drawn in, we would just list them out. AD, BC, what else did I say? DH, and CG. All right? Again, I know that's a little challenging. We can talk more in class, and I can try to give you some better visualizations when I'm not on a computer. All right? Okay. Segments that are perpendicular to FG. This one I think is fairly easy. Maybe not as easy as number 1, but not too bad. So I'm going to sketch in the original, FG, and then I need to know, excuse me, I need to know any segment that is intersecting with GF at exactly 90 degrees. And so I know it's a little challenging, but hopefully you agree that because this is a cube, every single angle in this picture is a 90, right? Like, I know that GH is perpendicular because really that's a square down at the bottom, so I would have a right angle in that corner right at G. Same thing with EF, there would be a right angle right there. That flat right angle. Now there are two more. Hopefully you guys agree with me that I can also think about this right plane. So CG and BF are also going up directly at a 90-degree angle from GF, right? There's a 90 and a 90 right there. And so I know that the 4 pink lines, or segments I should say, that I drew in are my answers. So I would just list them. Let's go back to blue. BF, CG, EF, and HG. Now, I've probably lied. I think that 4 is even easier than number 1. If I know that I'm trying to find the plane that is parallel to plane BCGF, well, let's find BCGF. That's right here. There is only one plane that is never going to touch that plane, right? We know that the top is touching, same with the bottom, even the front and the back. It's this left plane, right? This left plane is the plane that will never touch, and so that is the plane that's parallel. You guys remember, I really only need 3 letters, right? If you want to list them all, it's fine, but honestly, any 3 letters on that plane would be appropriate for an answer. All right? Okay, so as we move on, we have some more vocabulary, unfortunately. I'm very sorry, guys. I'll try to get through this quickly so that we can get into the practice and not spend too much of your time. All right. Okay, so transversal. A transversal, when we're talking parallel lines, or anything for that matter, a transversal is a specific type of line that intersects 2 coplanar lines at 2 different points. All right. So if I was gonna like sketch a picture of that, maybe here are my coplanar lines, and here's my transversal. How do I know? It's intersecting both at 2 points. So the pink is the transversal. All right. The transversal and the other 2 lines always form 8 angles, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. Now, we have a bunch of different angle pair relationships. Well, I shouldn't say relationships yet. We have a bunch of different types of angle pairs. The first one that we care about is corresponding angles. Corresponding angles lie on the same side of the transversal and on the same sides of the lines. All right? So in this example that I drew over here, if I have to be on the same side of the transversal, well, I either have to be on the left or the right side. All right? So let's pick left. Or actually, you know what? I'm going to just draw another picture. Boom, boom, boom. If I wanted to find corresponding angles, I would need to find two angles that are on the same side of the transversal and are also on the same sides of the lines, the original lines. So for that, I mean like they'd either both have to be above or below. So like if I pick this angle to be my original, what angle is going to correspond with that one? Well, it's going to be this other one that's on the same side, the left side of the transversal, and above the line. All right? Now, alternate interior angles, they're non-adjacent, okay, so they cannot be touching, very important. They lie on opposite sides of the transversal, opposite sides of the transversal, and they always lie between the lines. All right, I think just to save some time, I'm going to wait until we get down to the bottom to kind of explain some of these. Let's get through the definitions and then we'll talk about them. Alternate exterior, very similar to alternate interior, also lie on opposite sides of the transversal and are outside of the lines. Same side interior are kind of what they sound like. Same side interior lie on the same side of the transversal, and interior means between. I don't know if I made that clear up above. Hopefully you guys agree or made that connection. Interior, alternate opposite, interior between. Alternate exterior, opposite outside. So when we do this last one, same side exterior, well, same side exterior lie on same side of the transversal, but now because it's exterior, we have to be outside the lines. All right. So let's go through and do some examples of this, and then we will, I think there's one more page, but we'll try to get through it. Okay, alternate interior. So if we go back up, alternate interior meant angles that are on the opposite side of the transversal and between the lines. So right off the bat, when I look at this picture, I know I can get rid of 1, 2, 7, and 8 because those are exterior angles, they're not interior. So what I need to understand is that the alternate interiors, have to be the ones that are on opposite sides of the transversal. Hopefully you guys agree with me. If these are my two lines, then this right here is my transversal. There's my transversal. And so I need to find angles that are on opposite sides of the transversal and between the two lines. So I'm going to say angle 3 and angle 6. Why? Well, 3 and 6 are on opposite sides and they're between. So that means that my other set is 4 and 5. Now, alternate exterior, kind of the same, but now we don't care about the inside. We forget about the inside. We're only looking at the outside. So once again, alternate means opposite. So 1 and 8, 2 and 7. Easy enough? Hopefully. All right, same side interior. Again, think about it. Interior angles means I'm only looking inside. Same side means same side of the transversal. So same side of the transversal, maybe 3 and 5. And then maybe 4 and 6. That's a 6. 4 and 6. Same side exterior, once again, we're looking outside now, but again, same side of the transversal. So if I cover up a half, well, outside angles, 1 and 7. And then, of course, 2 and 8. Corresponding, probably the one that's the trickiest. Corresponding, you got to remember that they're in the exact same location, basically. The exact same location. And by that I mean they're going to end up being on the same side of the transversal and on the same side of the line. So not just interior, not just exterior, it's the same side. So if like you're above one of the lines, then you need to be above the other line, the second line. So, for example, if I cover up one half here, I'm looking for two angles that are same side. We covered that up, so we know we're on the same side, but that we're above both of them, above both the lines. So I'm looking at 1 and 5. Well, couldn't I also pick 3 and 7? Sure. They're not the same as 1 and 5, but 3 and 7 are both below, so absolutely I can say that those are corresponding. And the idea here, guys, is that there's two more on the other, right? If I cover up the other way, well, hopefully you agree with me that 2 and 6 are above, as well as 4 and 8 are both below. If you notice, when I'm looking at these, I look at kind of like the points at the middle, and I say they have to be in the exact same direction from the point. So like, we said 2 and 6, right? 2 and 6. 2 and 6 are both upper right from the point. 1 and 5 are both upper left. 3 and 7 are both bottom left. And then 4 and 8 are both bottom right. So that's another way that you can kind of think about it. All right. Okay. Oh my gosh. Let's see. What do we got here? All right. One more page. I know it's getting a little long. It's shorter than my previous version. So be thankful for that. All right. A few things that we're trying to do here, okay? Identify the transversal and classify each angle pair. Here is my thought, guys. To find the transversal, and think about any of these actually, right? The transversal has to touch the different angle pairs, right? It has to touch both of the angles. Like 3 and 6, 4 and 5. Well, 3 and 6 still both touch the transversal. 4 and 5 still both touch the same transversal. It's the same with all of these. So the idea when we move on to number 10 is we need to find the line that's touching both angle 1 and angle 4. So for example, if I tried to pick angle or line M, well, line M is touching angle 4 over up in this corner here, but it's nowhere near angle 1. So M can't be the transversal. And with the same argument, N can't either, because N touches 1, but does not touch 4, right? Do we see how that line is nowhere near angle 4? So we actually say, and I know it kind of looks like an E, I think that's a cursive L. We're going to say that line L is our transversal. And why is it? Because line L, whoa, that was terrible. Line L is the one that touches both angles. Now, and one thing I would maybe encourage you to do is maybe kind of turn your paper so that the transversal is always going up and down. That, at least for me, helps. I need to figure out how angle 1 and angle 4 are related to each other. So if I look at the transversal, 1 and 4 are on opposite sides, so I'm going to write the word opposite. Opposite. And 1 and 4, if the transversal's here, then my two lines are these extra ones right here, kind of going like that and like that, right? Well, where are 1 and 4? Are they between? Are they outside? To me, it looks like they're outside. So for the time being, if you need to go back to your notes and kind of figure out what's outside and opposite, then do it. For me, I just think opposite I know has to be alternate, and outside means exterior. So I know that these are alternate exterior angles. All right? Now, we would do the same thing. Let's do one more, and then I think I might call it, and I might ask you guys to try 12 and 13 as like a little warm-up, or just to practice. Maybe I'll do them live in class. Maybe I can answer questions about them. So let's do 11, and then we'll call it. Okay, 8 and 12. 8 and 12. Okay, so I found 8, I found 12. What line touches both of these angles? Oh, it's this one. Right? That's the only line in this picture that is touching both angle 8 and 12. If that is my transversal, oh, and I should write that, my bad. That was a W. So line W. remember the transversal has to cross two lines, right? So my other two lines that this transversal is crossing are these lines. Why do I care about that? Well, that's going to help me understand like direction and position and whatnot, okay? So when I look and I kind of turn again, I see 8 and 12 are on the same side of transversal. So I'm going to write same side. Now, when I look at 8 and 12, one is inside, one is outside. Oh, wait. 8 and 12, those are both below the two lines, right? This one, 8 is below this line, 12 is below. So I'm going to say they're both below. Now again, until you feel confident with it, I can understand if this is confusing. But when you're on the same side, and they're both going in like the same direction, or again, like if you have this point and they're both in the bottom left corner, then that means we have corresponding angles. Alright? What's really nice, and I know it doesn't always work, when we get into parallel lines, when we for sure these are parallel, they're gonna be, it's almost like you could take this and just drag it over, and 12 and 8 would be in the exact same spot. Okay? So I'm going to call the video. I know it's a little long. We'll practice some more in class. Peace.